Good morning, everyone. I am FC Arcade. Thank you for attending the Team Security Taking the War to Bots and RMT presentation. Let me introduce the team to you. Collectively, we have about 60 years of experience policing EVE Online. These are the four main responsibilities of the team: account security, macro use, payment fraud, and real money transactions. All of the data in this presentation is taken from the 1st of January 2025 up until the 31st of March 2026. And in that time, Team Security have banned 551,461 accounts. That is a huge number. And the reason it is so big is because the work of Team Security starts when an account is registered, when somebody creates an account. If we identify an account that we believe has been created purely to break the EULA, we will proactively ban that account. We will also monitor for any accounts that we believe have been created through automation. And by that I mean somebody has pressed a button and it has automatically created 100 accounts. If we see any large-scale automation like that, we will ban those accounts as well. So, out of the 551,000 accounts that we banned, 473,000 were created through large-scale automation. Mostly this happens on Steam. What happens is somebody will create 10, 20, 30,000 Steam accounts, and they will add EVE Online to the library of those accounts. This is not a problem that only EVE Online has. This is a problem for most free-to-play games, and we are not even the target of this. What happens is the people creating these Steam accounts, what they want to do is they want to add as many free-to-play games to the accounts as they can, so that the accounts look legitimate. And they will sell the Steam accounts to people who have been banned on Steam. So we are just kind of like a byproduct of this. So if we take away those numbers, we are left with around about 78,000 accounts. These are accounts that we have banned and they have got into the game, or they have had some sort of in-game impact. Let's take a look firstly at accounts banned for macro use. When we talk about macro use, we are talking about the use of software that violates the EULA. So a piece of software that will automate a process that should be done manually. The software can be used for automated mining, automated courier missions, nullsec, ratting is quite popular. Also automating sending messages to chat channels. And this also includes input broadcasting. So, about 45,000 total bans. About 43,000 of them were permanent bans. 2,315 were temporary bans. We will issue a temporary ban to a player if they are a veteran player or a rookie player, it doesn't matter, and maybe they have decided to try to use some macros. We will ban that player for 3 days or 7 days. We will tell him, if you reoffend, if you start using macros again, you will receive a permanent ban. We will ban all of the accounts associated with the player, not just the account that is used for botting. So if a veteran player creates a new account and they only bot on that new account, we will ban not only their new account, but also their veteran account or their old account. These are the top 5 ships used for botting. Back in 2022, my colleague FC Stinger did a similar presentation, and these were the most popular ships that we used. More recently, we see these types of ships being used. There's some crossover. Caldari ships are always pretty popular for botters. The Ishtar is especially popular for nullsec ratting, if you're botting with that. But we're also seeing a use of the Osprey and the Moa. We're seeing that those types of ships are mostly being used to bot homefront missions or homefront sites. Let's take a look at the skill points of characters banned from macro use. So this is how many skill points a character had when they were banned. On the far left-hand side, 15,620 accounts had round about 300 to 500,000 skill points when they were banned. These are accounts that we have identified almost straight away as soon as they were created. They didn't get a chance to train any skills. They didn't get a chance to get into a ship. They were banned almost straight away. Apologies, the slides are slightly off. The next group, these are characters who had between 1.3 and 1.5 million skill points. These are the characters that are flying the Ospreys. These are the characters that are flying the mowers. These are the characters that are doing the home front botting sites. The next spike we see, and these slides are an older version, I apologize, 1,025 characters were banned, and these guys had about 5 million skill points. These are the more sophisticated botters. These accounts typically require some more resources to get up and running. They require a character to train to 5 million skill points. Maybe they require Omega to actually use the ships they're going to be botting with. And lastly, on the right-hand side, 2,173 characters were banned, and they had over 5.5 million skill points. These are the accounts that really generally are not used to bot. These are the veteran accounts, or the other accounts belonging to players who have maybe created a new character and have tried botting on the new character account, but we've identified them, and so we have banned all of their accounts. Banned character with the highest skill points, 287 million and some change. This person will never get access to that character again. They have been permanently banned. And like I said, it's worth repeating, they might not have necessarily been botting with this character, but if we find you, or if we find them botting with another character, all of their accounts will be banned. Top 10 corporation by members banned for macro use. Top 3, Caldari. Caldari are always popular because Caldari ships are popular for botting, or people want to get botting and get into the game as quickly as possible. They'll create a Caldari character because they can get to Jita as quickly as possible. They can buy the ships, they can buy the skills, they can buy the modules they need to get botting. You may notice there is one corporation on that list that is not an NPC corporation. That is a player corporation. 441 members of that corporation have been banned for macro use. This accounts to about 71% of that corporation have been banned for macro use. If we see something like this, if we see an established corporation that has a high number of its members banned for botting, we will reach out and contact the CEO, and we will tell them, you have a botting problem in your corporation. You need to start doing something about it. If you don't start doing something about it, we will start taking action against your corporation. We'll take assets away from your corporation. We might even take disciplinary action against the CEO themselves. We do this because it's incredibly frustrating for us to ban people we detect as bots, and then the next day they create new characters, they apply for the same corporation they've been in, and they get accepted straight away. So this is why we reach out to the CEOs. I should mention, we often get contacted by CEOs. We often get contacted by recruiters who are doing a background check on somebody who has applied for their corporation, and they've seen something suspicious in the background check. They will contact us and say, hey, this guy applied for our corporation. He's doing something suspicious. We've denied his application. You guys might want to look into him. And we genuinely appreciate that. There are a number of reasons why we might start an investigation into botting, why we might look at a character who we suspect is a bot. The vast majority of our investigations require almost no effort because the vast majority of the people we ban do not attempt to hide their botting activity. They simply want to create an account, create a character, get into the game as quickly as possible, and bot as quickly as possible. They will often only use the accounts for 8 hours, 12 hours, maybe a day, and then they will distribute the ISK they got from botting, and they will start fresh with new accounts the next day. This is a corporation that was set up purely for botting, and it's pretty typical of what we're seeing. We're seeing this type of corporation created 5 or 6 times every single day. Some of the characteristics of it make it pretty clear that the owner of this corporation doesn't really care about EVE. They just want to get into the game as quickly as possible. Firstly, the name of the corporation is the name of the CEO and then the word corporation afterwards. This is the default suggestion when you go create a corporation. The name of the CEO themselves, in fact, the name of all of the members of this corporation have been generated using the in-game name generator. So when you create a character, you can click a button, and it's like, hey, here's a name you can use if you want. It's not taken. When you see enough of these names, you get to recognize them straight away. Typically, we're seeing the size of this corporation be about 21 members. Mostly what they do is the CEO will remain separate, and then they will send out 4 groups of 5 to go and bot various sites, usually home front sites. 100% tax rate, this means it's easier for them to distribute the ISK they get. If they have a 100% tax rate, any ISK their members generate will go straight to the corporation wallet, which makes it easy for them to just send that ISK to ISK buyers or to distribute. These are the in-game portraits of that corporation. These are the 21 members of that botting corporation. If you look at them, you'll see there's some similarities, all male, all Caldari, but apart from that, it looks like some time and effort has been put into these characters. They have different clothing, different facial expressions. No time and effort has been put into these characters. They have been created through the character creator as quickly as possible, because the people do not care about the appearance of their character. It wasn't always the case. We made a change to the game. These are the patch notes from April 2020. Specifically, characters will now have pre-randomized clothing on character creation. It wasn't just the clothing we randomized, it was also the facial features. Before we made this change, there was one aspect of a character that if I saw, it would immediately raise my suspicion. The next slide I'm going to show you has 21 portraits of people who were banned for botting before we made this change. I would like you to look very closely and see if you can identify the common factor in their appearance. Are you ready? Before we made that change in April 2020, we banned a ridiculous number of bald Caldari men. We banned so many, I banned so many personally, that even to this day, even after that change, if I see a bald Caldari character, I will spend a few minutes just looking and seeing what they are doing. But enough about that tangent, let's go back to some statistics. The total ISK on accounts permanently banned from macro use is 14,875,334,000,000. The highest ISK balance on a single character that has been permanently banned from macro use is 435,874,000,000. This person will never get access to that ISK again. And the vast majority of this ISK was actually not generated through botting. They were using a different account, which was generating some botting via Ishtars in nullsec, if I remember correctly. But because they were botting on that account, we banned this account. And that is worth repeating. I'm happy to say that the ISK and assets that are on permanently banned accounts for macro use do not remain outside of the economy. Every year we run an event called GM Week, and we used to transport characters who were flying capital ships into HiSec, and we would set them as a suspect flag. And then we would let nature take its course. It was a popular event. People got to kill capital ships in HiSec, which is a pretty rare occurrence. We don't see many people these days use capital ships for botting. So in last year's event, what we did is we took the assets on permanently banned accounts, the Plex, the skill injectors, the ships, we put them into a structure and we blew that structure up. And then people could get the whatever loot spawned from that structure. We will almost certainly be doing that event again this year, so please keep an eye out for anything related to GM Week. There is a way that you guys can report somebody you suspect of being a bot. There is an in-game bot reporting tool. You can find it if you do show info, and then you click the 3 dots, and you click report bot. This tool has some good points and it has some bad points. The good points being, it gives an in-game perspective. I will spend most of my day looking at data, querying database tables, looking to see what a certain character or maybe a whole 1,000 characters are doing. It is very rare for team security to actually log into the game on our characters and go around looking for bots. So the ability for you guys to report a bot in-game gives us that in-game perspective that you see. It's relatively quick. It's just a few buttons. which makes it nice and easy for you. It doesn't take you too much time. If you report somebody, and then we permanently ban that person, you will get an email to say, hey, we appreciate your report, we have taken action. So you get that nice kind of feedback. I say sometimes because sometimes we don't always send the email out as soon as we ban the person. Sometimes it can be weeks or even months between banning the person and sending you the email. The bad points are that in-game perspective can sometimes be flawed. The common example we have is 2 players in local, and one player says, every time I'm in local, this guy's in local, that guy must be a bot. And then that guy will be like, every time I'm in local, that guy's in local, that guy must be a bot. I was told by the community team I should put a certain Spider-Man meme here, but I respect you all too much to do that. I will leave the memes to FC Stinger. There's no granularity in the tool. You are literally just report bot. We've always wanted to update the tool to add some granularity so that we get a bit more context as to why you think the person you're reporting is a bot. Do you think he is part of factional warfare and botting that? Do you think he is an input broadcaster? So it's not ideal. And lastly, if you report somebody and we investigate them and we find they are not botting, you will get no feedback. You will not get any mail to say, hey, we've taken action. And we appreciate that that can make it seem like you are kind of shouting out into the void. So, you guys are using the tool, though. You're using it a lot. We've received almost 200,000 reports against 65,000 characters. Of the 45,230 accounts that have been banned for macro use, over 10,000 of those had received at least one bot report against them. These are the top 10 reported characters. If they have a red background, that's because they're permanently banned. So if you look at the top one, that person received 281 reports against them. This particular character was reported because they were in an enemy-aligned staging system. They were always online, and they were always cloaked. And so the theory was like, oh man, this guy must be using some macros to stay cloak or to automatically log in straight after downtime. We investigated this guy, and eventually we actually banned him for an RMT, a real money transaction-related offense, as opposed to a botting offense. I guess the outcome is the same, he got banned, but it was for a slightly different offense than he was reported for. The second character received 156 reports against him. We looked into this, and what appears to have happened was a fleet commander was flying through nullsec with his fleet. He exchanged some angry words with this player in local, and then the fleet commander told everybody in his fleet to mass report this person. And this is a good time to mention, there are no automated bans in EVE Online. Every single ban requires somebody to press a button. We can ban 100 or 1,000 accounts with the press of that button, but it still requires the press of the button. So mass reporting people won't automatically trigger any action. This guy could have got reported 10,000 times, and it would not have triggered any automated action. You're clapping, but it's a lot of work for us. If we go to the bottom of the list, the character received 112 reports against him. That person was botting. But between the time we received those reports and we investigated him, the owner of that character actually deleted the character off their account. They probably thought that, oh, if I delete my character, then it'll be harder for team security to find me or to prove that I was botting. When you report somebody as a bot, you do not actually report the character. You actually report the account the character is located on. So even if this guy deleted his character, those 112 reports still counted against his account. So deleting your character, it's not going to stop us, basically. So that was macro use. Let's now look at RMT, or real money transactions. When we talk about real money transactions, we're talking about people who sell in-game items for real money. We're talking skill injectors, plex, ships, characters, accounts even. So that's what we mean when we talk about RMT. The total bans for RMT, 28,741, of which around about 26,500 were permanent bans, 2,291 were temporary bans. If we detect somebody who is selling, whether it's Plex or ISK or ships, they will receive a permanent ban on their first offense. If we see somebody, could be a veteran player or a rookie player who is buying, they will receive a warning or a temporary ban, but we will also confiscate the ISK value of whatever they bought. And these permanent bans, it's a bit of a disparity between permanent and temporary. These permanent bans also include people who send a chat message which links to an RMT website, and we see that every single day. And again, just like with macro use, we will ban all of the accounts associated with the player, not just the account that the offense happened on. Caldari, once again, pretty popular for RMTers. They're popular because a lot of the RMT transactions happen in Jita, and people will create a character, Caldari, to get to Jita as quickly as possible. So, confiscated ISK. Like I said, if we detect somebody has bought something, we will take either the ISK they got or the value of the ISK of the item they bought. So if somebody buys a ship worth 1 billion, they can keep the ship, but we will take 1 billion ISK from their wallet. If they straight up get 10 billion ISK, we will take 10 billion ISK directly from their wallet. We will take that money even if they don't have it in their wallet. What frequently happens is we see somebody buy 10 billion ISK, they will straight away spend it. They'll buy skill injectors, a fancy new ship, and they will have maybe 5 billion ISK left in their wallet. We'll find them, and we will put their wallet into 5 billion ISK negative. It is not easy to play EVE with a negative wallet. You can't use the market, you can't repair your ship in an NPC station. So often we get players say, hey, you caught me, I bought the ISK, but I think it's unfair that I am in a negative wallet right now. I have, personally, very little sympathy for that, because team security also deals with account security. And a lot of the source of RMT comes from players' accounts who are hacked. The hackers will strip your character of skill points. They will take all the ISK out of your wallet. They will sell all of the items in your hangar. And that ISK will be used to give to people who are buying ISK. So when somebody comes to me and says, oh, I can't believe I got a negative wallet, I'm like, I don't really care. There has to be consequences for your actions. Let's take a look at the total ISK confiscated due to being acquired through RMT. 33,465,198 and some change. The single largest confiscation of ISK we have performed, 1,090,000,000,000. That was taken from a corporation. The corporation directly received the ISK that was being bought. So you cannot use a throwaway character to get your ISK and then transfer it away. We will follow the money, for want of a better phrase. Second largest confiscation of ISK, 332,639,000,000, and that was taken from a single character. That guy can still play if he wants, but it's going to take him a while to get back from a negative wallet. These are some of the methods of ISK, Plex, or asset transfer used by RMTers. So this is how they transfer the item or the ISK from the seller to the buyer. This is the current most common RMT delivery method. It looks complicated, it's pretty simple. Two people meet in a safe spot in Jita and they exchange the goods. That's pretty much what happens. That's what we're seeing right now. That's the current method, but methods will change. Step number 4, seller moves Plex from Plex Vault to ship cargo hold. This wasn't always the case. We have seen RMTers, ISK sellers, or Plex sellers specifically, who have maybe come into EVE Online and are playing it for the first time. What they used to do, they used to be in Jita, they would move the Plex to their ship's cargo hold, and then they would undock from Jita 4.4 in a Corvette with Plex in their cargo hold. This is an RMT seller who did exactly that. Unfortunately, the 800 Plex did not drop, but we appreciate that. FC Stinger is actually going to detail a particularly nasty individual who managed to avoid our detection for a number of weeks and move Plex for weeks without us actually seeing it. So before I hand over to FC Stinger, though, how much RMT and botting do we catch? I cannot give you a percentage of the amount we catch. If we knew all of the people who were botting in Eve, we would ban them all, and there would be no botting in Eve. So I cannot give you a percentage, but if you look at the amount of people we're banning, it is a lot. We do catch a lot. Who is responsible? Again, if you look at the number of bans we're issuing, you would be forgiven for thinking that there is a large-scale problem of botting or RMT within Eve, that tens of thousands of players are taking part. That's actually not the case. It is a small, dedicated group of RMTers or botters who do not care at all about EVE Online. They will create accounts, they will bot, we will ban them, they will create new accounts. Every single day this happens. So rather than being a large-scale problem, it is a much smaller group of players who get detected, banned, and then start again. What can you do to help? Please enable two-factor authentication on your EVE accounts and your email account. Most players' accounts who are hacked, it's via their email address. Their email address gets hacked. Don't share an account or log into a friend's account. I know if you have a friend who is winning EVE, who's going to quit EVE, and they contact you and they say, hey, I'm done with EVE. I'm finished this time. Honestly, I swear. Take my account, change it to your email address. You can take my account and use it. That is a violation of the EULA. If you take that friend's account, you don't just take their account. You will take the history of that account that they have with us. Your friend could have had a temporary ban for macro use. They could have had temporary bans for offensive language. If you start using your friend's account and you do something wrong, you might get disciplinary action taken against you with your friend's bad account history taken into the fact. So it's just not worth it. If your friend is quitting EVE and they want to give you their account, just say, no, what you can do instead, just transfer your character to my account. That is a legal way for you to take ownership of a character. Don't buy ISK, Plex, ships, etc. If there is no demand, then the supply will dry up. These people do not care about EVE, the people who are selling the ISK. They just care about making a profit. And if there is no demand, they will move elsewhere. They will probably move to a different online game, and that will be another team's problem. Please don't bot. Simple. Lastly, and perhaps the most important message I can leave with you today, do not trust a bald Kaldarian. Thank you very much. Here is CCP Stinger.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fanfest. I'm FC Stinger, and this is me conducting a special training to combat the bots. Those are some huge numbers that FC Arcade has presented, right? And I'm going to be covering today two topics. One of them, I'm going to be telling a little bit about our tool that we're using to conduct those investigations. And to other, I'm going to be speaking about a real case that we have encountered a little bit more than a year ago. But first, let me introduce Maltego. Maltego is open source intelligence software that is used by multiple companies to conduct cyber threat analysis, network mapping, and of course, just simply work with open source intelligence that is out there, like with the data. However, we're using it completely differently because we don't need the data out there. We have all the data here on our servers. In particular, the logs. Now, when I joined CCP a couple of years ago, the players were always, making jokes like, yeah, the logs show nothing. That's actually not true. The logs show quite a lot. And to conduct an investigation, especially when we're speaking about RMT, where the assets are being moved, that is a lot of time. That is a lot of human hours. But I'm using Maltego. That's why I still have a lot of hair on my head. In particular, this is the software. And we get a source, like we get the data, like the characters who are botting. We get it from a different source. They are known to us. We're going to place those characters on the graph, right? They become entities. The characters are the ones who are doing the assets movement, injection of assets, in particular ISK, Plex, or just simply ships and modules. Because the bot farms, they don't act like normal players. They are created instantly, very fast. They are injected with assets to start botting, to start generating the ISK to be sold for RMT. And when we place those entities on the graph, right, we bookmark them with a small blue flag. That means those are known characters to us. They are known, we ban them, they are the bots. But we are actually interested in assets movement. Who is the financier of that bot farm? Who injects stuff? And especially, who gets the stuff out to be sold for RMT? We place them there, we run the transforms. When I say run the transforms, that means Maltego is executing data pool. It takes the data from our servers, from the logs, and places it nice and neatly on a graph. In particular, this is how it looks like. Known entities, characters, bookmarked blue, they are dealt with. They are the bots. And then we run the transforms, and then we see the connections. Who is moving what? Who is transferring where? There's a corporation involved. Of course, multiple times there's injection happens. They put it in the corporation, scope hanger, and the characters are taking it out. So literally, Maltego helps us in our work because they are transforming the logs, like matrix, the code flows down, oh, like I see what Neo is doing. It converts that to nice, readable format where we can immediately identify who we need to take a look at, not follow false leads, and not just start pulling our hair from our heads. But this is not just it. It's much more, especially when it comes to Alliance tournament. The community team asked our help to perform background checks. And the background checks needs to be in place because Alliance tournament, the prize is quite huge, and we don't want any bad actors participating in our prestigious esports event. But we know all that our players, you guys, don't have just one character or one account. You have multiple. If we would be conducting that manually, that's gonna take months. No. And this is where Maltego comes in. We've been assisting community team for the Alliance Tournament 2023, 2024, and now last year for 2025. We pull all the information into the graph in Maltego, we run our background checks, and just a simple entry for the Alliance Tournament of 2025 results in over 8,000 entities. Go check out 8,000 entities by hand. Impossible. But, as FC Grimmy said in our previous Fanfest presentation, it's always cat and mouse game. We are doing one type of thing, they adjust. We adjust to them. We start doing something differently, they adjust. Because they are always interested to do botting, they're always interested to do RMT, because that's their business model. In particularly, when it comes to this particular graph, what they started doing is injecting, like we see here on the graph, like the known entities, the characters that are bookmarked with the blue flag. They started moving assets to one character, and that character then moves it to another, and then one to another, to another, to another. If we would be performing that investigation manually, that's just gonna take a lot of time. But we place it on the graph, we run the magic, the transforms, and immediately, Maltego shows us like, hey, look at the bottom. There are two entities, two characters, that are not known to us. That's why they don't have a flag. And we immediately can take a look at them. We copy them on a new graph, and then we run the transforms, and we take a look, especially, where does the injection of assets originate from? And most importantly, where do the profits of botting go out? But yeah, this is our tool. But now I'm going to be speaking about a real-life case that we have encountered a little bit more than a year ago that involves Plex. In particularly, a lot of Plex. And for that, let me introduce our special guest in this presentation, the really bad guy. Now, we're dealing with quite a lot of bad guys on a daily basis. Why is he any different? You'll find the answer at the end of the presentation. But we have another thing that we need. We have the Plex, it's what's being transferred. We have the really bad guy. And we have a wreck. Now I see already like some people are like, yeah, I know where that's going. No, I didn't know it myself. So here, I'm using an example. The wreck of a Badger of FC Arcade, right? As he said, Caldari, Bolt, with the Plex in his cargo hold. And that's what we initially saw. It kind of looked like a wreck with shit tons of Plex. And the schematic, apologize my amazing Maltego graph skills, it kind of looked like this. We have a gang player who was flying with the Plex in his cargo hold. He got ganged in Jita. Then this really bad guy flies to the wreck, loots it, and then starts distributing it. Clear case, right? Corvette, Plex, Jita, ganged. That's it. Clear case. Situational RMT. The guy, the really bad guy, was in the right place in the right time. Yeah, no. Something doesn't make sense. Why would you place the Plex into your cargo hold? Doesn't make sense. I mean, if you buy the Plex, right, you put it in your Plex vault, you fly where you want to fly, like Jita, Ransamar, to the trade hub, you withdraw it, you place it on the market, profit. Why would you be flying with the Plex? You know, ganking is still a thing. So we started looking a little bit deeper into this. And this is just an example, but in real life, I mean, in real case, in this particular case, there was no Plex in the ship. There was no Plex in the cargo hold. But we clearly see that the really bad guy takes it out. And that's where I slowly started to pull my hair out. I didn't know. I was doubting myself. I said to myself, like, okay, this is enough. I should be going back doing gameplay tickets. I'm losing my touch. Going back and forth through the logs, unfortunately, Maltego didn't help here. I couldn't figure it out. There is no Plex in the cargo hold, there is Plex in the wreck, and the really bad guy takes it out and starts to distribute it. To such an extent that I stood up and asked the team, together with our gameplay GMs, like, guys, is it possible to move something into the wreck? No, it's not possible, right? You're flying, you get killed, the loot fairy says yay, or the loot fairy says nay, and that is then being placed into the wreck. You can take things out of the wreck, but you cannot put things into the wreck. You can salvage the wreck, and then everything that was in there is going to be jettisoned in the cargo container. Yeah. The only solution was, the only explanation was, we logged into the CC server, and we just moved the Plex from the Plex vault into the wreck. And it was possible. And this just simply shows what we're dealing with. The really bad guy was using a bug. He was sitting on a lot of assets, a lot of ISK and so on and so on. And he found this method to move the assets layer after layer to obstruct investigation for us to catch him. And this is how it looks like. I'm very sorry about the lines. I did try my best, but Maltego is resistant. So the really bad guy, he creates an account, he gets the assets, and he finds a ganked player or a killed player somewhere in HiSec, in Jita, Amar, or Renz, or on the way. He then places the Plex from the Plex vault into the rack and takes it out immediately with a different account, with a different computer and a different IP. And he does that over and over and over until it all ends up at a distributing account where it's then being sold for RMT, like skill injectors, Plex, modules, or skins. Once we got the data, once we figured out how it's been done, that those players who got ganked or got killed are completely innocent. They never had the Plex in their cargo hold. They're innocent bystanders. We ran the data backwards. And we found out that this particular really bad guy was doing it for over 6 weeks, moving thousands of plaques. We found the source. We took care of the source. And of course, we took care of the final, the distribution. Everything got confiscated. All the accounts got banned. And of course, some data that we saw there are just random players who were trying that bug. Somebody moved 50 plaques and took it immediately out. But this particular individual was doing it over and over again. And this is literally what we're dealing with. It's like Matryoshka dolls. We start looking at the origin, and we go layer after layer after layer after layer until we arrive at the smallest doll. That's where the assets are being distributed. And this is where Maltego helps us a lot. We have PX tools team in our department, and it's just a simple request like, hey guys, can you make this for me? Like, make a new transform, the way the data is being pulled. And within like hours, it's done. It's a very universal Swiss knife in our toolbox. But if you want to know a little bit more deeper about that, we are going a little bit deeper in our previous presentation on Fanfest 2023. You can scan the QR code. I promise there's nothing fishy. Yeah. Or you can just simply search it on YouTube. But that was it. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy Fanfest. If you have any questions, please feel free to tackle FC Arcade outside, and please feel free to approach me too. Thank you very much for coming so early. Enjoy Fanfest, and I'll catch you around.